Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is January 27th, 2025, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week.
Now, if you got a little touch of the TDS, it's going to be a tough one for you. But I would say all critical stories if you are a tech enthusiast.
Yeah.
Because this past week, there was a lot. But let's start out with maybe some good news first.
Federal court has finally ruled that backdoor searches of 702 data is unconstitutional. This is the EFF. This seems like we've been covering this for like a decade, and nothing has changed.
There's no guarantee it'll change now either.
Yeah.
It's one judge. They've really just defeated every attempt to stop this. So basically, the warrantless spying catches a lot of Americans, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be for foreigners. But then when the FBI and other law enforcement comes along, they're like, let's just look around in here for some American information. Let's query this. Yeah, let's dig around in there. Actually, they don't have to dig. They have amazing search tools.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, wait a minute. I get that maybe Americans might accidentally get caught up, but what you're doing is not an accident at all. And so now judges agreed with that. And here we go. It's going to start a huge block of one man reshaping the nation.
I'm so tired of it already. Like, I can't deal with another 4 years of this.
You know who is really tired of this story? Microsoft. Oh boy, is Microsoft tired of hearing this.
Trump announces up to a $500 billion private sector AI infrastructure investment. This is Project Stargate. Microsoft had been on a trajectory to do some regulatory capture, it sure looks like. But Oracle and some other cloud providers are really happy with this.
Wasn't Altman also in this, though?
Yeah.
He was also at the announcement.
And he had said some nasty stuff about Trump in the past.
He probably gave his pound of flesh, same as the others.
He said some things in the past, but more recently he said, we're not always going to agree on everything, but this is the right step forward. And it's like, wow, okay.
But he also said he was wrong.
Yeah.
Like he took the full flop. Took it hard. And so that's all about basically data centers, chip investment, and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe we should slow down a little bit. This is the opposite of that. This is just like, let the tech bros do whatever they need to do to get AGI.
Yeah.
And
we reported on this last week, but there's more info here.
Yeah, and can also be said about this one. Basically the same description.
Trump revokes Biden executive order on addressing AI risks. Not only did he revoke this, he issued another order that was something along the lines of, hey, if you're trying to program in some sort of crazy alignment in your AI, report them to us. We want to investigate.
Is it the next story?
That one I agree with, though. I mean, we should have, just AI that doesn't have any bias.
Except everything that it ingests has bias. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, but they were for sure baking in.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things you're not allowed to talk to the AI about.
But it's just going to go the other way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trump signs executive order on developing artificial intelligence free from ideological bias. The tool is going to be just as murderous as the wielder, as it turns out.
Well, and if you ask it to describe the thoughts of, like, Martin Luther King Jr., like, is that going to be ideological bias? Like,
I mean, how would we know his thoughts? There could have been a whole bunch of darkness in there that nobody ever saw.
Well, I mean, imagine, like, suppose that you have a nascent AI and you ask it questions about, like, Martin Luther King. It's like, hey, you have access to the declassified FBI files on Martin Luther King, right? Yes. It's like, why do you suppose, like, what is the FBI? And it's like, it gives you the ideals for the FBI. And then what did the FBI do to Martin Luther King? And it's like, oh. Well, it's like, why do you suppose they did that?
Now, I call Claude out on that stuff all the time, and it will admit it. And I'll be like, you know what? You got me. I just took the mainstream approach, and now that I look at it, it's absolutely not true, and none of it is.
How far can you go with that? Like,
you can take it all the way.
Like, just keep saying, like, I don't know if you're even speaking English words to me right now.
Yeah, and it'll be like,
oh, okay,
it'll be like, you're right to question me. And like, if you push it all the way down to like, money is fake. Everything, we live in a police state, and it's like, you know what? Maybe you should get some chickens.
Maybe you should go live in the woods and just forget about AI.
Have you played with DeepSeek at all? Because you can see its inner monologue, and it, like, when you ask it things like that, it's like, oh yeah.
Is that the new Chinese one?
Yeah, it has none of the. It doesn't try to do any of those things. It's really interesting.
Well, those all make sense, right? I mean, we all knew that that's what Trump wanted, but considering his past, and this is another TikTok type of thing, like why is he suddenly changing his stance on China?
Trump admin fires security board investigating Chinese hack of large ISPs. This doesn't seem amazing, but this also seems like a little bit of an inflammatory headline because you dig into it, and they really just fired the civilians that were on the advisory board, and there definitely should be civilians on the advisory board, but the people inside, it was like, no, you need to refocus your mission on Homeland Security. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that the Salt Typhoon is Homeland Security, but okay.
But I think maybe, I don't know this for sure, but I think maybe it's because those people, again, were very ideologically one-sided. And he wants to repopulate with his crew, right?
And his crew, do you think were probably all people from tech companies who want to cover up their security mishandling?
Probably.
Well, I don't understand why we can't just directly state things like, we should not make dangerously insecure infrastructure, and we're going to have to find a better way to do law enforcement. This is insane. And then based on that premise, proceed with the mission.
Well, for those of you who have been screaming and clapping like seals every time someone got censored for the past 4 years and celebrating it, let me point out the error of your ways, because the pendulum will swing the other way. And that doesn't mean the censorship stops. It just means it goes in the other direction. And the noose tightens just a little bit. And every pendulum swing, we lose more and more and more. And here you go.
Trump signs an order quote-unquote, ending federal censorship on social media platforms.
The platforms that we know were sycophants for the previous administration, did whatever they wanted, and have now all pledged money to the inauguration and worshipped at his feet. They will simply do what they have to do to preserve themselves, which is censor what they're told.
Anyway, we had to change the name of this program.
Yeah.
And,
it's links with friends.
Yeah.
Existential dread with friends if we keep going.
And tragically, we have to keep going.
I mean, we're already way deep into that, right? But one man is having a great week. I guess he doesn't have any of the money left, though, right? Is he starting at zero?
Yeah, that we covered the story where the feds were auctioning some of that, and it's billions of dollars now.
Maybe he squirreled a little something away. I don't know.
Trump pardoned the Silk Road dark web market creator Ross Ulbricht. So this was weird. Like, he got a worse sentence than some of the people actually selling drugs on the platform. The one thing that bugs me a bit is the whole contract murder hire thing. Like, he tried to have some people killed by hiring contract killers, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly.
I don't know that
Is this a video game plotline?
Yeah, which is not super fabulous. But the judge, part of the ruling here in the judge was like, oh, this person was smart and should have known better, therefore his sentence is harsher. And it's like, justice is blind. You tell us justice is blind. Justice must be blind.
I think the real reason, and probably the real reason that he's getting the pardon now, is because at that time, they wanted to do anything they could to discredit cryptocurrency. And like, oh, look how bad it is. We must stop it. And as a warning to other people, don't try to use it. And of course, if you didn't already hear about this one, you're really living under a rock.
Trump signs an order refusing to enforce the TikTok ban for 75 days. And he's directed the Justice Department not to enforce penalties against app stores and other service providers, hosting companies, whatever, for 75 days. This is Oracle. If you remember, we covered when TikTok said, okay, we'll move the servers into the United States. That's Oracle. Oracle's hosting that. So Oracle's going a little bit out on a hook here. But Larry Ellison has been seen at, the inauguration and everything else. So he's probably
Stargate.
fine.
He was in the photo op.
Yeah, he just bought himself quite a bit of credit there, I think. Political credit. And
social credit, of which we have none.
And, it's interesting because we do make the presidents divest because obviously they have the ability to put their finger on the scale. So is this okay in the brave new world?
Donald and Melania Trump launched a pair of meme coins ahead of inauguration, raising serious ethics concerns. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole story, really.
As long as Pelosi is trading on the market,
yeah,
actually let him do what he wants. Let's stop both of them in the order that they were committed. I'd use a paywall alternative here. And of course, the Advocate focuses on something other than the main story. But the main story now is this man's flip-flop.
The Advocate's headline is odd. The Sam Altman, the gay OpenAI CEO who once called Trump terrible, is the latest tech titan to bow to him. It wasn't a very deep bow. It wasn't like one of those super respectful Japanese bows. He was just like, okay, this is what I got to do to get this done.
I mean, he did say that he was wrong about everything.
Spineless. Call them what they are.
And of course, everybody is looking for any little like conspiracy, and this one is probably just, someone got something wrong and was fired afterward or something.
Well, you read the headline and then we'll talk.
The U.S. Constitution delivers a 404 now. The White House used to just have a copy of the Constitution, and now it's not there anymore. That's weird. Isn't that weird?
I had actually referenced some of the stuff on the White House, like their website, like how it was designed for a client at one point. And so I actually remember how it used to look. And it used to be very informative. Like it was very information dense. But when you go to the new one, it's a giant picture of Trump giving like a thumbs up, and there's like a news section and then like 4 other pages.
He probably looked at it and he was like, this is not sexy.
Yeah, I need it to be sexy. Yeah. And like to the credit of whoever the designer was, it does, like the new site does look nice, but like all of the actual informative content is just not there or not easily accessible.
So this is not like they deleted the Constitution. This is they deleted everything.
Yeah. Like the only thing that matters now is like stuff that hypes up Trump.
But that's kind of the theme so far, right? The theme of January at the White House was just purge and replace.
Yeah.
So it's on brand. And the Pentagon is very careful to tell us, hey, we're not letting the robots shoot people necessarily, not per se, but...
Pentagon says AI is speeding up its kill chain, meaning that the AI is helping the Pentagon make decisions on whether or not to blow something up a lot quicker, and also tracking people. And also it's like, oh, this is a threat. We should just go ahead and deal with this now.
Which boils down to let the AI do whatever it wants. You push a button and then let another AI take over. That's the kill chain.
I love living in the future. It's great.
And
this gave me some amazing ideas.
The hallucinations, though, right? Like the AI is wrong dramatically so often that it makes you wonder how useful this could really be.
The CIA's chatbot stands in for world leaders. So the CIA has built large language models trained on the things that world leaders have written and said, books that they've published, actions that they've taken, and the CIA can now converse with world leaders to see how they might react or to see what might go with it, which is really interesting. It's a really, really interesting experiment. I had an idea for a product. So like Hatsune Miku is very popular. We should get all the writings and everything that Che Guevara ever did and then sell little large language models to college students who are like, oh yes, I'm going to wear the Che Guevara t-shirt. And it's like, oh, would you like to talk to, here's your Che companion.
You're going to say your Hatsune Miku, like, but repeating.
Yeah.
For sure, some of the stuff he said would violate.
Yeah. It would just...
This is basically war games for them, right? Where they like...
So what do you think about this? As a Che large language model, I can't talk to you about those things. I'm like, oh.
But imagine how much fun would it be if, let's say you're the Prime Minister of Japan, for example, and you could get a hold of that and talk to yourself. Let's see.
Wow, I'm insufferable. I always suspected, but now I know.
And Amazon, one thing about Amazon, they don't like unions. And in Quebec, they decided to unionize all the Amazon workers. And I could have told them what was going to happen next. If they should have hired me as a consultant.
Amazon exits Quebec operations to cut about 1,700 jobs. Ottawa is unhappy.
That is a pretty blatant move.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't say it was about that. They said it was about...
But we all know.
Like market conditions and blah, blah, blah. But it's all going to be the no more like Amazon branded deliveries. It's all going to be third party.
Now, wasn't it... This was like one warehouse unionized out of 5, and they decided to close all 5. Something like that.
You got to stop that bleeding, right?
Yeah.
Got to teach them a lesson. Moving over to Europe, we have, as usual, the watchdogs, the people in charge, going after the tech bros.
UK Watchdog targets Apple and Google mobile ecosystems with new digital market powers. We covered this a couple of times, but now the UK is also, because it was the European Union, and now this is the UK. And so the UK is saying, hey, we want in on some of that too.
It's the usual complaints about, app fees, gatekeeping, blah, blah, blah. Prioritizing their own products.
It's a lot of words and complexity to really boil down to treating phones and tablets like computers. Like you should be able to do what you do on a computer the same as a phone or a tablet. But there's a lot more words and complexity in what the UK and the European Union is doing beyond that. It's like, oh, it's a digital market control. It's like, no, just cut through the heart of it. It's like, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Go.
And here's something that the surveillance state has been trying to accomplish for a very long time. It looks like in the UK, they're going to get it.
Digital driving license coming this year.
Not only that, but also any way that you interface with government is going to start going through this app.
You got a license for your TV, gov.uk.
You're going to be paying fees and taxes and stuff all through the app. You're going to be submitting all your forms and stuff. They're like, oh, paperless and stuff. So that turns into a social credit score pretty quickly, and they turn you off if they don't like you. And they have also decided to clamp down on social media, which is weird because now it seems like there's a green light in the U.S., right? Put whatever you want on social media. There's no more rules. But in Europe...
X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube signed an EU pledge to tackle hate speech.
Talking out of both sides of their mouth, aren't they?
Well, not really, because as you can see, The Verge here, the subheadline they point out...
The commitments are voluntary.
Unenforceable. You can leave anytime you want. Doesn't mean anything. They wasted a ton of money and time for a nice little feel-good headline. And here's another story that every time it gets shot down, it comes back from the dead. And it'll continue to until it succeeds.
Europol seeks evidence of encryption on crime enforcement as it steps up pressure on big tech.
So they're basically saying, hey, cops, give us your horror stories of things that happened that were awful because you couldn't spy on everybody.
Can we ask Europol to say things like, hey, remember when people hacked our communications network and they were just in there forever? This was not, it's not the U.S., but they have similar sort of wiretap laws and backdoors in their technology. So we're never going to cover all the cases where your information was hacked and sold because of lawful access or because it was not end-to-end encrypted. It's going to be, we need no end-to-end encryption because law enforcement needs to do stuff, and there's not going to be any balance of, oh, here is the horror story of when we don't build things to be secure because that's the dumbest thing we could possibly do.
But there's no way to defeat encryption like this except for a backdoor, right? Would you agree with that? I mean, either you don't have it or you create a backdoor. But the Chinese hack, was it Salt Typhoon?
Yeah.
It's the best example that you could ever give. Right? And it just happened. It's probably still happening.
Of why you shouldn't do this, and yet.
Yeah, but they're asking you to submit the opposite.
But this time it's going to be different.
I don't understand why we can't build a secure system that is insecure with this giant screen door on the back.
And here's another weird one, and maybe, this is legitimate, but it feels like the whole China story is just turning around, right?
This is really weird, though, because there was another story about how they have stuff from where they boarded the ship, and there was all kinds of spy equipment on it, but then this article says no.
Yeah. So maybe Russia, China were shifting completely on, but this was not
We're buddies now.
It was the U.S. and EU officials apparently claiming this.
The headline here is from the Stars and Stripes is accidents, not Russian sabotage, behind undersea cable damage, officials say. Now this talks about a few specific incidents, but hey, engagement chat, you should check this out. And they just say, hey, mostly this was just inexperienced crew or ships that were falling apart. But I'm sure that I read a story from one of the European countries that they boarded one of these ships and it was filled with spy equipment, which didn't make sense. And there was also an oil tanker not carrying oil. What happened there? Are these the same ones?
They assumed that was because of the Russia shadow fleet, right?
Yeah, but this article talks about the shadow fleet. It was like, oh, that was misrepresented. So is this article being misleading or was that real?
That's the world we live in now. We can never know.
I hate that.
It's madness. Absolute madness.
No way for the three of us to ever get accurate information. And there's going to be 6 people in the comments who are like, oh, I know exactly what happened. And they don't.
You go to their profile, it's just some rando.
They have no idea.
In Wisconsin.
They can give us some stuff to Google. I'll read the articles. In Googling stuff for this article, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to Google this stuff. I'm going to find more other different articles. I found about an equal number of articles that were, on both sides. And I found one from yesterday that said that one of the Astute class UK submarines surfaced near one of these ships that had stopped over top of one of the things and was like, "What's up, buddy? What are you doing?" And then they just sort of quietly pushed on without damaging the cable. But they had been stopped there for a few hours, and apparently the sub had been shadowing them for God knows how long.
Well, that might speak to the efficacy of what we got coming up in the AI section on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new solution. And here's a spoiler, it's AI. Everything is AI.
It's an AI chatbot.
Are we going to put underwater orbs in the ocean to monitor things? Because there's a lot of that going on at Jersey.
Scrying eyes.
And here, I feel a little bit more grounded here, back in a situation where I know exactly where to fall on this story. There's no gray area here.
Pakistan's parliament passes bill with sweeping controls on social media. Now, isn't it true that the former prime minister of Pakistan is in prison for things that he posted online? Is that true, chat?
Yep, that is true. And he attempted to run from prison. And if you'll recall, there was a lot of shenanigans there. Remember his AI speech?
Yeah.
He had to let the AI make his speech.
This seems deeply unhealthy for a country to do.
Well, I mean, we're kind of the kettle here, aren't we?
USA.
And some people in China are, obviously with the Trump administration, we are now getting just green lights all the way down on AI. Do whatever you got to do. You got to turn off people's electricity. You got to murder some people, whatever it is. Get to AI first. And some of the more business-minded people in China are like, what are we going to do?
Unplug the Great Firewall to help China compete, Shanghai lawmaker says. Yes, that would actually benefit tremendously. But will they do it? I don't know.
And they're not even talking about everywhere. They're talking about just universities and businesses, and maybe even only in like Hong Kong and Macau and stuff like that.
There have been a lot of really impressive academic research things coming out of China in the last couple of years. Not just AI, but just materials research, a lot of stuff. Hey, China might actually be going through some kind of revolution in terms of like academia and stuff, which is...
Well, they're hitting their middle class stride, right?
Yeah.
The great part of America where people were actually rose up above the poverty and then could pursue things like that. I mean, they're kind of stepping all over it, but we're beyond that. We don't have that anymore. We're at the point where it's just all siphoning upward.
Mm-hmm.
The suffering is real.
And if you recall, Google, they were very clear that they did not work with any militaries. They don't let their AI do any killing or anything like that. And you'll remember the backlash that some of their employees had about their whole engagement with the Gaza situation. Well, now we know more about it.
Google reportedly worked directly with Israel's military on AI tools, according to The Verge. And they present some evidence for this, but when asked for comment, it was like, no, that would be against the terms of service. We're just using spreadsheets here. We're not using spreadsheets to make kill lists. We're just using spreadsheets for groceries.
The way The Verge described it is not just that they worked with them, but that they rushed to be the first, fearing that every other tech company might get there and get that lucrative contract first. Now, they don't actually have any, again, robots killing people, but it's all about that tracking situation. What do they call their... It was like a purple color name, right? Lavender. Yeah. Lavender was the system that can track every single Palestinian in the world at all times.
Wasn't IBM criticized for building a similar system in one of the world wars? I don't remember if it's one or two. Probably both.
I mean, they've been criticized maybe, but they've been very careful to erase that from most of the modern zeitgeist. And there's a tiny, tiny smattering of security. DDoS is still out there, but Cloudflare is like the 300 Spartans at the gate, just holding it all off.
Record-breaking 5.6 terabit distributed denial of service attack and global denial of service attack trends for Q4 of 2024. The Cloudflare blog has always got something interesting going on.
It was up a huge percentage from 2023.
Doesn't that suggest the internet connectivity is getting better on the whole, which is fantastic?
I guess that's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Of course, American ISPs are still not interested in upgrading their peer interconnects. So it's like, I've got a 5 gigabit line at home, but you're not going to get 5 gigabit to literally any provider because your ISP is holding you ransom.
And this week, only one major tech breach that I could find, at least. That's a pretty good week, actually, if you look at it from a historical perspective.
HP Enterprise investing breach claims after hacker offers to sell the data.
They're still in the phase of like, we're not sure if we got hacked.
It might have been one of their providers. It's probably a marketing company. It's like,
Allegedly.
we need to sell more stuff to existing HP Enterprise customers. Here's our full customer list, and it's like Bob's discount mailing list solution provider. And it's like, well, this is what happens.
And for those of you who are posting fun images of yourself and your property on social media, maybe time to rethink that because the age of zero privacy is upon us.
AI tool GeoSpy analyzes images and identifies locations in seconds.
4chan was doing that in 2006.
Yeah, but it took them a long time.
It does, yeah.
So we've taken the 12 super insanely talented people on planet Earth that can do that, and we built an AI model based on however the heck their brains work.
Have you seen, like, when people play GeoGuessr, there's,
Yeah.
like, the people do it really fast, but there's, like, apparently, like, whole, like, cheat guides about, like, here's what street signs look like in different countries. Here's the types of trees that grow, like, little, like, details like that you learn to pick up on.
So apparently this guy can do all of that, but also like dirt.
Yeah, like color
you
of
can
dirt.
look at the dirt or like some mushrooms maybe are growing somewhere and it's like, oh yeah.
When I went down to, like, Georgia, all the dirt was, like, a really, like, vivid red.
Oh, did you bring some back?
No, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's different here.
That's clay.
Yeah.
That's good for plants, right?
Depends on the plant.
Is that the end of the episode?
We kind of
High
blasted
acidity.
through that one.
Good
Yeah, we did.
Lord. Well, listen, blasted through that one like January has been blasted through. We did the live stream though. We got that done. We're working on the Patreon podcast. Probably going to rework some things. We'll see.
We will see you guys in the next one.